Hey everybody, it's Elizabeth Morosco with Kudos Magazine. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. We have a special guest with us, Chris Swanson, who is the Genesee County Sheriff, and he's going to share some insight with all of us that is vital for our community and our families in different ways to keep our families and communities safe. And it can be just simple things, including having knowledge and the right resources to help keep you and your family on track. So, Chris, thank you so much for coming today.
I love it. I've written a number of articles for Kudos, but I'm kind of digging this live interaction. So we might have to do this again in the future.
Well, I think that since COVID, we've all kind of been forced down that path of
Yeah.
digital communications. But one of the gifts is it does help us become more connected with our community. And you are incredible between you and your team and a willingness to stay connected and letting the community know different things that are happening so that we can stay safe. And we always love your voice in Kudos Magazine. For some of you that have been following us for a while, you know that we deliver Kudos Magazine directly to your inbox absolutely free. So go sign up at kudosflint.com. And Chris does regularly share different content that's actually inspiring for your personal life and community and more. So it is so great to have you here. This upcoming issue of Kudos, we're going to be covering a lot on caregiving for the caregiver, and it can be for seniors or many different people that are in our family and community. And I was hoping that today you could share some insight on different things that are happening in the community and things that people should know about.
So I'm going to get a little bit of a behind the scenes account in my life. Obviously, as the sheriff, I have this personal, professional persona that people see, but there's a side of Chris that people don't know that I like to use these opportunities to share, and that is when you gave me the topic to consider about caregivers and those being cared for, it immediately took me back to a young high school student when I was going to Grand Blanc, living in Ottawa Hills, and my grandfather, Walter Swanson, who did 32 years on the Detroit Police Department, was in the 1945 riots, and my dad followed his footsteps. It was in the 67 riots, and then of course me, in the third generation, dealing with we've been dealing with. He was very dear to me, and it made a huge impact on my law enforcement future. But he started developing dementia after my grandma died, and they were from what we call downriver Detroit, and there was no place to put him. So my parents, in an act of desperation, transformed our whole house and made our dining room his living quarters. But he was slipping by the day, and I saw this man growing up. Then I saw the person who was in our dining room, and there were two different people, and it was my dad's dad. So I, without even knowing, started to get this knowledge of how to deal with people that are going through dementia and Alzheimer's when they, in fact, meaning the person being cared for, they don't realize it sometimes, but the caregivers are the ones that are bearing this burden because you see them as they were and now they're not, and it's very, very difficult. I learned later in life that it was very tough for my dad to witness because he had such an impact on my dad's life. But what I saw is for almost 2 years, our family joined together and we had to change the way we do business. And it became a full-time job for our household. I'm the youngest of four. My parents, there was six of us plus my grandpa. We all lived in this house in Ottawa Hills, as I mentioned. And it just changes everything. You don't have the freedom you used to have. You have to protect the individual from stares and from getting into things, as people watching right now can probably attest to, that they don't know that there could be poisons, whether it's some kind of a cleaner or even food they're not supposed to have. All that was my first interaction with somebody who we needed to care for. Eventually, we did move him to a nursing facility in Fenton when I was just out of high school, and he was there for a number of years. In fact, I became a licensed medic at age 20 years old, and I became a police officer at 21. And when my grandpa died at the Fenton Extended Care, I was by his bedside as a county medic. He was in hospice at the time, and it was just was just a very respectful death. My dad wasn't able to be there. He said his goodbyes, but the whole thing, it just, I didn't realize what it was going to be as far as an impact to my life. Fast forward, being a paramedic and still a licensed medic, I have always had a great interest in taking care of people, vulnerable people. And then when you expand vulnerable people from not just the elderly, but also the addicted, those that have struggle with mental illness, those that have a disability, even animals can be overwhelming to people that if the caregiver is not cared for, then sometimes they can strike out against those vulnerable people who can't defend themselves. And then you come into the professional world of Chris Swanson, because we obviously hold people accountable. So I have this funky balance between personal and professional. So the message I have, whether it's your grandpa, whether it's an animal, whether it's somebody struggling with addiction, is you as a caregiver have to make yourself a priority. You've got to make sure that you're not losing ground and your patience is getting thin. Your ability to have a life of your own while you're caring, and sometimes the guilt that you feel like I don't deserve this because I need to pour my life into this person, which is true. But if you're not taking care of, then what good are you going to be for the individual? So I say all that, that if there's caregivers out there right now that are caring for any of those individuals or companion animals, that this episode, and certainly this kudos magazine for this time, could be just the thing that you need, because eventually you're going to see that people try to take advantage of the same group that we're trying to care for. Elizabeth?
Absolutely. For starters, I did not know at that young of an age you had a interaction with somebody so close to you, to give you that sort of awareness. I mean, and really at a young age. And I think you hit a couple of things like right on the head when you were talking about different things that people get into when they have dementia. And in some ways, it's almost like having a little kid, but
Yes.
with the adult mindset that pops up. And so, where you have to safety proof things that you didn't think of, and not just like safety proof, the cabinet under the sink, but, doors, making sure people aren't getting out, just so you keep people safe. But one of the things I think that a lot of times in life, when we go through different struggles or obstacles, those can become the path that can lead us to our destiny and our calling. And how you ended up taking that to that next step, with the paramedic, it's pretty inspiring. And hopefully some other people that are along that road can find how they can take their story and then come back to their community and their family to serve better, whether it's through the knowledge that you receive or turning it into some sort of career, that those become the ways that we can change this world, instead of just going through the suffering and giving and burning out. But having the courage to come out and talk about it, I think, is key. One of the other things too, Chris, that you hit right on the head again, I thought was really cool, is talking about caregiving may not necessarily just be for seniors. There's many
Right.
families that are raising, even adult disabled children, where they need that extra hand.
Right.
And recently, I have noticed, I do want to give you a great big kudos. I'm so grateful that you're a sheriff in Genesee County, and including with the approach that you've taken, going after people that are abusing animals and making sure that they are safe. So, in some ways, you kind of are a caregiver to the community. And through your knowledge and your eyes keeping focus on what's happening, that's how we can create healthier, safer, happier communities. So, yeah, I love that. And that's a topic that sometimes people will just, brush by,
Right.
but you're not. You're like, I'm not letting it go. And I love that about you. So, and speaking of community, you had said that recently there have been some different things that are happening that maybe people should know about to help keep their families safe, and including different scams that are maybe targeting some seniors. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. And so, I always am cautious, and I want to put a disclaimer there that although we talk about these scams, I don't want people to live in fear,
Oh, yeah.
because you've got to live life, but you can live life with a weary eye out there,
Yeah.
and and just to be cautious of people coming to you that you don't know. So what we've seen, obviously, in life is as much good as we do, whether it's being the publisher, editor of Kudos Magazine, working at Hurley Hospital, being the sheriff, serving people in the church, taking care of people, no matter where you are, there's an equal element out there that wake up every day to create chaos in our world, to break the laws and to victimize people and to take advantage of the vulnerable. It's hard to conceive that, but there are those folks that do that every day all around the world, and they target our senior population. That's why you see scams that are directed specifically to the elderly population. A lot of it is because the older folks they live alone more. Sometimes they're not on their game as much. They're retired. They're not in the mindset. I know when I'm off duty, I'm not as sharp as I am doing police work as I am when I'm in the zone. And they take advantage of that. So much so that they use the analytics of timing to know when people are most sluggish, whether it's early morning or even late at night. And they make these calls, they make these connections. So I want to make sure that we're not naive to think that everybody's out there for the good reason. There are people, this is their business, this is their industry, to call you and say, hey, your nephew, your grandson, your granddaughter is in jail. And they may even play the role of your granddaughter, grandson, because they've seen all your social media, they have their name, and they'll make up stories such as, I got into an accident, my face got cut, I got hit by the airbag, I know it doesn't sound like me, but I'm in jail, they have my wallet, I can't get out, I need a bond. Can you please, Grandma, please, I need a bond. And what happens, it conjures up all this emotion. It triggers a sympathy response, and they do give money. So just this last month, we had a lady give $15,000 to scammers. And the craziest thing, Elizabeth, is, and I pray that I'm able to get in front of them one day, because we've tried and tried and tried, but they gave $7,000 to an individual that came to the house, cash. Like, I would love to have been on the other side of that door and open the door to them trying to get $7,000 from this elderly victim. And then on top of that, it wasn't enough. She sent $8,000 more cash. Oh, no. We've had cases just last year where they sent cash and they put it between pages of a book, a hardback book. Then they wrapped the book in tinfoil and then sent it. Well, when someone's asking you to do that, it's a scam. Yeah. And the reason they do that is because when it goes through the different scanners at airports, at FedEx, at UPS, they scan it. If it's something suspicious, they pull it. Well, the scammers know that. They don't want to pull it, so that's why they had these specific instructions. Wow. It is so sad because when the victim realized that she was taken, there's such a sense of embarrassment and shame. And they filed the police report, and our elder abuse team is looking into it. But the money's gone because majority of these individuals that are scamming are not even from this county, from the state, or even the country. Yeah. And if that wasn't bad enough, this one, there is a special place in Hades for these folks. They went to an 84-year-old widow in Vienna Township. And he was dressed, and it was a white pickup truck. And I wish I could get a description, but the poor little princess didn't see it well enough. She just knew that it was a pickup truck, and then said it was an SUV and said it was white, but we didn't know it was white. Guy knocks on her door, says, ma'am, I'm with Consumers Energy, no markings. We need to place a utility pole behind your home for power. Can I go out there and take a look as a site plan? This unsuspecting 84-year-old widow takes this individual outside to the back. He's on his walkie-talkie communicating to somebody up front who's going through her house and stole $10,000 worth of her jewelry.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. And immediately when the front man cleaned her out, this guy said, all right, ma'am, thank you so much. Started walking away. She's like, sure, don't you want my information? Never even responded. Kept walking, got in his truck and left. Like that to me, I want to find this individual. Yeah. And the community needs to be protected from people like that. Like, how could you in good conscience wake up knowing that's what you're going to do? Yeah. Because you got to think about that, Elizabeth. There's so much
It's
what we
clever and it's
call,
cunning, and it's definitely, it's
yes,
not just like a fluke.
premeditated.
It's very premeditated, and it's they've strategized.
Yes.
A couple of days ago, we had Amir, who's a
Oh,
local
I hate him.
attorney. Yeah, he's the
Yep.
best. And he came on, and we were talking about this, that it's not just somebody that randomly calls or targets
Yes.
or randomly calls somebody. They're typically targeting a person. They're profiling. They, like, you think that you profile on a dating app or you're going to go date. No, these people have profiled even further,
Yeah.
knowing your schedule, knowing your habits, understanding the psychology of people. And something that you said, Chris, that I think is so incredibly important is, after the scam happens or after these things happens, there's a sense of eating your pride and shame. And one thing that I do want to say to those that have fell victim, this isn't your fault. It's no different than
Right.
if you were mugged on a street, except for these people
Yes.
have
Great
intellectually
points.
taken it to the next level. So reach out to local authorities. If you've been victimized or you suspect somebody that you love has been victimized, take that extra step and connect so that something can happen and change can happen. When people hide in shame, that's how people get away with this. And when more people speak up, that's how we can make change. My family was also victim of scammers. This is from some time ago when my husband was alive, and he had a stroke, and then he had early onset of dementia.
Oh
And
my
as a result,
gosh.
I mean, he was really a sharp man. He had a lot of moxie and gusto, but when he got sick, his brain just wasn't quite working right. And he was targeted by a group of people outside of the
Oh,
country, and they kept promising like these lottos and these business deals that
yes.
were happening. So he was Western Unioning them
Oh my
money.
gosh.
And this went on for, I'm going to say, 2 years solid. And then finally, when things changed, and I found it was a stack of Western Union's receipts of money that was sent, and it
Oh,
was devastating. But this
live on how
happens
much
so
money?
much, and as soon as like that scam's found out, they find another way. But I think that the shame and the pride are sort of like the things that we need to get rid of and start saying,
Yeah.
hey, this isn't just you. It's not because, and especially with seniors, because a lot of times people really dismiss seniors like, oh, they're old, they
Yeah.
don't know what they're talking about. So there becomes this self defense of, I'm going to protect myself by not letting anybody know I fell prey to these rotten
Yep.
people. But
Yes.
unfortunately, the world is going to have always some sort of, twisted person that pops up. But I believe that we can do things to be proactive to make a change.
Yep.
And I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are some things that somebody that's watching this video, whether they are the senior or let's say a loved one that's looking over their grandparent or parent, what are some tips that you have that they can do to try to stay safe?
Well, I want to start by saying that the Bible says no greater love is one who lays down their life for another, and that is true love, is when you give sacrificially. And so I know there's so many caregivers out there that are literally giving up their life to take care of others.
Yeah.
They put everything on hold, just like
Yeah.
you did when your husband died. Like, everything changes, priorities adjust,
Mm-hmm.
and when that happens, there's a great honor, but there's a great burden, not in a bad way, but a burden to
Mm-hmm.
just do your very best. So there's no regret. If
Mm-hmm.
that is you, I want to reiterate the fact that there are so many services out there that can give you a break, that can give you a hall pass to go get your head, your mind and body, and your heart reset. Whether it's an overnight, whether it's a pedicure, manicure, whether it's a massage, whether it's a walk in the park, whether it's to go to the mall, whether it's to go to Ship Shawan, take advantage of those, because there are people out there that will care for your loved one, that will care for who you're caring for, to make sure that you're taken care of. Remember, if you're not there, who's going to do it? That's the first thing. The second thing is the person who's being cared for. Just by you being there, you're doing more than most. Just by you serving them, and sometimes you don't get that reassurance, that appreciation. And for that, I want you to know, your service is validated by people on the outside watching what you're doing. Think of how many people are being impacted by your heroism, taking care of other people. So when you feel unappreciated, just remember that the world appreciates people like you. And always be aware of that crowd that Elizabeth and I are talking about that are seeking opportunities to take advantage of the one you're caring for. Seeking opportunities in a very methodical, maniacal way. That your job not only is to provide meals and comfort and hygiene, but also to protect from the wolves. Mm-hmm. You're a sheepdog. Mm-hmm. Always be aware. Take care of yourself, take care of them, know your love, but watch the wolves.
It's some good advice. It's some good advice. And I think that actually, if you do take part in a little bit of self care, it's how you can become a better caregiver. But also, it puts you in a position where you can see things a little bit clearer so that when scammers are coming, you're able to see and think clearly instead of in that fog. Become aware, right. Pay attention to what's happening in your home, and even with conversations with your loved one to find out, are they meeting new people? Who are these people? Right. And don't get to that place of living in fear and not allow people to come in, because that's also a place where you can become vulnerable, where you get into that solitude. And, hopefully with each story coming out and people speaking their truth, we can start to make a little bit of a difference. But Chris, I think that you're doing a phenomenal job. And like I said from the beginning, just from like the pets, all the animals that you're looking after, our seniors. And for some of you that are viewing, you may not know this, but Chris actually goes above and beyond just the normal role at work. He's also doing these different, I don't know, I don't want to just call it community participation. He's taking the lead and getting involved with things like Pink Night Palooza and being an MC to help generate funds for local women that are battling breast cancer. And with that being said, I want all of you to consider, what are some things that you can do to enrich your community? Chris can do his part, this side. Chris can do his part at work and off of work, but so can you. Find out different organizations that you can either volunteer, donate, sponsor, get involved, so that those people and organizations can help other ones while they're in the middle of this battle. And I think you're doing a great job. I hope that you just keep on sharing truth with our community, and we'll get everybody on track. And for those of you that are a caregiver, I want to encourage you to go over to our Facebook page. We have a free group. It's a free group, absolutely free, called Caregiving for the Caregiver. And within that, you're going to see a bunch of resources and insights to help you stay on track for healthy, happy living. And coming up in this June, we do have our next Kudos magazine coming out. And that, again, is focused on caregiving for the caregiver. And Chris, I just can't thank you enough for all that you do in our community, and even squeezing me in today. I know that earlier this week you guys had a flood. You're dealing with floods, fires, and still coming out here. Yeah. Let's just hope maybe good. The rest will be sunshine days. That's good. And he's still smiling. So anyhow, well, thanks for sharing that story about your grandpa. I had no idea. And I'm glad that you took that path and created something beautiful out of it, because now all of us are benefiting. Yeah. So one day at a time.
I did not know that about your husband either. So I reciprocate my kudos to you.
Yeah. And that goes to show you we all have our own little story. But then let's take those stories and make something good out of it. We're going to make lemonade, and it's going to taste sweet, not bitter. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And in the meantime, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. We'll see you later, guys. Bye.